Flosstube. I'm Sara the Can-Am Stitcher. Welcome to Flosstube number 8. I'm going to give an update and a pictorial tutorial on the focus project that I worked on for the past week. So that focus project is called Stars and Stripes. I had started it back in April. It is a gift for someone, and I'd hoped it was going to take less time to make than it did take, but the fabric was causing me a little bit of grief. I don't know that I will sew with that fabric again in the future. However, the project has been completed and I'm really happy because then I can wrap it and mail it to the recipient. So without too much further ado, I'm going to talk about the process that I went through to finish it off. Now, keep in mind, I'm still fairly new to all of this. I've only done one other framed finish, and that was my So She Did pattern by Lori Holt. And here's a photo of what it looked like. It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot, and of course I forgot a lot about what I did when I did it. So as I was going through this process, I was like, oh yeah, maybe I should do this or I should do that. So anyway, the first thing I did was I took my project, once it was finished, out of the Q-snap. I used a Q-snap when I worked on this project. Took it out, and then I put it face down onto some white cotton fabric. I took a nice hot iron and pressed out the different indentations from the Q-snap. I did not use a starch or anything, but I did use a little bit of water only around the excess fabric. I did not spray anything onto the stitching itself. I was not certain if there would be any running, especially since there was red floss in the project. So I pressed it and made sure that I had all of those different little markings removed. I flipped it over and gave another little press to the front of it on the excess again. I checked everything, made sure it looked as I would like it to look. Then what I did was I had contacted my sister and showed her the different frames that I had purchased to place this project into. I had went to several different stores. I had a very, very difficult time finding a frame that was what I wanted, but I did find 3 that I felt were good options, but that was after several store visits. And one of the things I did notice, and I'm sure some of you are also noticing this, is that we still have a supply chain issue that's affecting how much merchandise is available to us. And I didn't want to start waiting for a few more weeks to go by as I kept visiting stores, hoping to find something that would work with the frame. So the one that I thought would work best is also the one that my sister liked as well. So with that in mind, I took the cardboard that was inside between the glass and the back of the frame, took that out and used that to measure against a foam board. So I measured it out, and then I used one of those cutting X-Acto type knives and scored the size out, and then I was able to snap the foam board. So I had the right size to apply. Then I used the cardboard again, the same cardboard, and measured out what I would need for batting, and used not the X-Acto knife for that, but I used a rotary cutter and my cutting mat to cut out the batting that I would apply to the foam board. And then what I did was I took some quilting basting spray. I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing or not, and I lightly sprayed it outside on the balcony onto the foam board, and then I pressed the batting to that. So once I had that, then I took the foam board and I turned it over to the back, and I marked the center of every single side. And then I pushed in pins into the foam, within the foam board, for each where those markings were, so that I could see it from the front where the batting was. I didn't want to mark up the batting at all. Then I used pins and marked the center of each side of the design, so that way I was able to align it. So I placed my design over top of the batting in the foam board, and I was able to align the pins from the the project, along with the pins that were in the foam board. So I did that, and then what I started to do was I have some silk pins that I'd used when I did my Lori Holt project, so she did, and I inserted and attached them along the edge into the foam to adhere, to secure the fabric. I did that, and then I remembered that I needed to trim the fabric a bit because there was a lot of extra fabric. So I trimmed some of the fabric. I also used some double-sided tape to adhere the fabric to the foam board. So that way I've got kind of, I don't know if it's overkill or not, but I just felt that was helping me to keep everything nice and secure and keep things in alignment. So once I had done that for all four corners, I then took some thread, some very strong cotton thread, and sewed each of the corners, the pieces of fabric, together. And I did diagonally first, and then the next diagonal to tighten it up, and then I flipped it over, made sure everything looked the way I wanted to. So I was pretty happy with the results overall at that point. And then tested it out inside the frame without the glass, because of the charm that is attached to the piece, which I almost forgot to attach, but I did before I'd done any of the pieces of attaching the project to the foam board. So I was really happy with that. I then took note and finished up the information and details that I keep in my little book for all of my projects, which lists the pattern, the designer, etc., the floss, all that information. So I put it into my little book that I log all of my projects into, and then I also did the same thing, or the bulk of the same thing, onto a card. And so what I did was, so the pattern is called Stars and Stripes, and the designer is Hinzite, I think. I'll have the information down below. I'm not sure how to say that, so my apologies to the designer if I'm pronouncing it incorrectly. I put down that I'd stitched the project, the stitch count, which is 41 high by 81 wide. The fabric that I used was a 28 count Jobelin lambswool. Not a big fan of that. It didn't seem to matter what type of needle I used. I tried a few different needles. They just consistently kept falling out of it when I was inserting from the back. And I just found that was really frustrating for me. And that was part of the reason why this project didn't get completed as soon as I wanted to, because it was just taking a long time. The other thing is, which I'd mentioned last week, with this particular project, there's a lot of do 3 or 9. You could do 3 stitches, then another 3 stitches, and another 3 stitches of a different color, or you could do little blocks of 9 or partial blocks of 9. There's a lot of start and stop in the project because it is done with 2 shades of each of the colors. So 2 different shades of blue, red, and then there's a white and a green, and gold all the way around the project. So while at first blush it looks like a quick project, and maybe for more experienced cross stitchers it is, for me it just took a lot of time and effort, but I'm really happy with the results, and I hope the person who's receiving it likes it and likes the results as well. So I started this the 10th of April. My last stitch was yesterday, June 12th, and I FFO'd it yesterday, June 12th. I also put onto the card, which same information as far as the DMC floss that I used, that I keep in my book. So I wrote down all of the floss, and then some additional information that I had put into the onto the what the significance of the date is. But I'm not going to talk about that, because that's, you know, something that this person who is receiving the gift may not want that publicly announced on YouTube. So here is the card that I created. And so then I have a little envelope that I created, and I adhered that envelope to the back of the frame. You can see I adhered it using double-sided tape, so that way all that information is in there for the recipient. So if they're interested in knowing any of those details, it's there. So here is another photo of, or sorry, another look at the finished product. I'm really happy actually with the frame. I think the frame works well and complements the colors. So I'm really happy. I'd originally thought I was going to go with something completely different. However, they didn't have the size I needed for this. But I do really like it. I am really happy with it. Oh, look, I see a little loose thread there. So pardon me, I've removed that since. Yeah, I'm just really happy with it, and I think it turned out really well. I'm really excited to get this packaged and sent away, and hope that the recipient enjoys it. I'll find out once that person receives it in the mail. Other than that, I have not yet fully decided what project I'm going to have as my focus project for this week. Which technically starts today based on the challenge rules that my sister and I set. So I'm giving a little thought to that. I will tell you that I'm not certain if I will get a lot of stitching done this week or not. It is really hot here. I live in New Mexico, known as the Land of Enchantment. It's been hot the last couple of days, and it's going to be even hotter this week. So we shall see. I did have a nice trip out to the dog park this morning with my best friend Ginger. Here's a little picture of her doing her, what I call her yoga. She has a tendency to sleep in what I call her yoga positions. She's a really sweet and wonderful dog. She had a ton of fun at the dog park that I took her to today. There were a lot of other dogs there this morning. Owners, everyone was having a great time, and it was the only time that was appropriate to take her out since it is so hot. I'm very cognizant about that. I don't want to take her out when it's too hot. I like to take her to the park that is immediately behind my house, but that means, you know, a leash, and she needs to have a little time to be able to just run and play and enjoy other dogs. So that was something else that I accomplished today. Other than that, I guess as I'm thinking about it, my focus project for this week will be the same one that I had for, not this week, the previous week, which was the temperature tree. I was really happy with the progress I made. I'd like to get caught up with that. So I'll work on that one. That will be my focus project again. So that will be it. As for a new project, I have not started one yet. I know my sister has, and she's been working on it, and it looks really lovely. That's her Christmas Quaker project. And so for those of you that don't know, her channel is, she's Victoria, the Happy Stitching Nurse, and I will link her information below. And I wanted to also give out a call out to a couple of other YouTubers. One of them is Patchy Pony Stitcher. please check out her channel and check out her videos. I'm sure you will enjoy them. And there's another Sara that I'd like to call out, which is Sara's Stitches. Now, interestingly, in the state in which she lives, they have a cross-stitch store with the same name as the store that I visit here locally, called Stitcher's Garden. So it seems to be a popular name for cross-stitch stores. So I want to call out her videos. Check them out. They're very interesting. She has some lovely items as well. And then finally, I'd like to also call out Kristi's Corner Needlework. I know I'm looking over because I have it written down on a screen. She has some interesting videos, but also one of the things I'd like to point out is she is writing a book, a historical book, and I won't go into details. I'll let you visit her channel and see the information. She's also looking for support from the Cross Stitch Nation to help her meet her goals that she's going to set each week with her book. And so I've already put a comment on her video on that to say, hey, count me in. I will help support you in that endeavor. And that is it for now. I will every week try and give some shout outs to other cross stitchers. So if you haven't heard your name yet, it's going to be coming up, so don't worry. I could probably devote an entire episode just calling out different cross stitchers that I have watched or have heard of, and that's one of the things that I have found very helpful for me with doing this channel is that people reach out, they comment, and then I'm introduced to their channel, which is helpful because it's hard to see all the different ones. So it's nice to meet them. I really want to be supportive of other new Floss-tube members, and not just them, of course, but some of the established ones as well. And that's it that I can think of at the moment. I hope you all have a really wonderful week. I hope that not too many of you are too hot. I do know that there is a heat wave that is spreading across a huge swath of the country, so you will be hot like I will be, and hopefully everyone can stay cool and not feel too hot, because I know for myself it can make me feel less energetic, and I have to be very mindful when I go indoors and outdoors because I can find that the extreme change in temperature from air-conditioned environment out into the heat can make me feel a little nauseous. So have a great day. Have a wonderful stitching week coming up, and I will talk to you again next week. Bye.